Welcome, friends, to episode 326 of Color of Magic, your Magic and Gaming podcast, where we talk about all types of issues that affect gamers at and away from their gaming tables and computers. I am your host, PowrDragn, and still got my number one draft pick from 2019, Brian Psionic. How's it going, dude?
Oh my God, 2019. I feel older just hearing that. Jesus.
I figured that's a good introduction with the
Yeah.
NFL draft going on tomorrow or starting tomorrow, I think. So, yeah, fun stuff all the way around. But yeah, man, this week we have a lot to cover. There was some crazy Pokemon news, obviously, some Magic release stuff, some sports related. There's tons of stuff in the gaming space over the last couple weeks. This is going to be an interesting show. But don't forget, if you want to support the show, we'd really appreciate it if you go over to patreon.com/color of magic just to help us out, help us keep the lights on, feed our pets, or help Brian Sonic feed his kids. You know, that's more
Right.
important than my pets. Just saying. But
I
also,
wasn't going to say it, but since you did.
yeah, exactly. Your kids are just a little bit more important than my cats. You know, but if you do want to save yourself some money and get free money, actually, which is the real thing here, you can literally go over to our sponsor, Manapool. You can shop for all types of cards. You just got to go to manapool.com/promo/color of magic. And they will literally give you $5 in your account that you can go spend on whatever magic stuff you want to over there. Great site. Honestly, even before they were agreed to be a sponsor, like checking their site out, like the UI, the whole layout is so smooth and so good. And I recently just tried to upload a deck list into it, and it was really nice how it handled everything. So go check it out. Get your free $5 for signing up. I think I need to check right now. We have something like 11 left entries. I don't know when they're going to reload it, if they're going to, but there's 12. So yeah, go over, sign up. It's manapool.com/promo/color of magic. But all right, dude, let's hop into this lead story here because this is basically, what's the best way to phrase this as a lead in? Like, dudes, y'all just gotta chill out with bothering women for playing whatever the hell they want to play. That's just the first thing, right? And I say this because there was a post that I saw on Blue Sky, which brought to my attention a thing I didn't even know was a thing. There's a whole group of women in Puerto Rico that just go by Women in Magic. And their site, for anybody who's interested, who's listening from there, it's magicgirlspr.org. And it's really cool. They apparently run different types of tournaments. Looks like mostly commander things, but it's all women. Really cool. Like, way to get more women in the area to play Magic, creates a comfortable environment for them, etc., etc. We should be supporting this. Apparently, a bunch of local guys who found out about it were like, oh, it's going to be an all women's tournament. Bet they're just going to play all these girly cards and all these Bloomborough cutesy things and blah, blah, blah. And my reaction to this right off the bat was just, okay, so what if they do? Like, who cares? Right? Just let them play whatever the hell they want to play. Like, if they're having a good time and they get more interested in Magic, great. I don't care if they want to play the commanders I think are the dumbest commanders on the planet. Like, let them just play the cards they want to. But to their credit, they put out a fun social video, basically going through and all the top finishers. They took the commanders and dressed them up. So some of them got like fancy nails and bows in their hair and fake eyelashes or whatever.
Epic.
Yeah, just to make fun of the dudes. Just like, we played real commanders and real decks. But you're right. They were quote unquote girly. And then they just did them up or whatever, which I thought was fun. So credit to them, honestly. But this whole thing is just kind of silly to me. Because first off, we should just be inviting way more people to participate in our hobbies or our favorite games or whatever, right? Like, we shouldn't be taking actions that make people feel like they don't belong or feel uncomfortable for no good reason. If the person has done something bad, then yes, we should make them feel uncomfortable and they should not want to be here. But if somebody's just, I don't know, their favorite color, their favorite character or whatever, they just want to build a deck around, like, all right, fine. Have fun with that. And honestly, to me, and we talked about this off the air, like, if you are interested in women for future mates, You should want more women to participate in your hobby so they understand you and where you're coming from and you're more relatable or whatever. Whatever the hobby is, not even just Magic. So to make them uncomfortable is only doing yourself a disservice on top of everything else. But that aside, we should just want it to be open for more people to just
Because you
participate and
want
have
more
fun.
people to play. You want the game to continue, right?
Exactly. I just don't get it, dude. This just makes so little sense. Like, and
I
not
mean,
only
what
that,
what rationale is there for not wanting women to play? None that I've heard that makes any sense.
bro, see, that's the other part that I'm coming to is where is your logic in being like, you know what? Instead of saying, hey, let's embrace all these women that are trying to learn the game and participate, and even going into a competitive environment, and your reaction is, we should just go make fun of them so they feel bad about
Yeah,
playing.
what is the benefit?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay, let's say that works. Whatever the group is, it could be women, it could be trans people, hell, it could be black folks, it could be whatever, right? Whatever group you want to go make fun of. Let's say it works. What's your outcome that you're aiming for? Just fewer people buying and participating in the thing that you like? Like, if the companies make more money and your local game stores make more money and your local TOs make more money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you get more things. You get more promos, you get more events, you get more cool sets, you get bigger stuff at Magic Cons, you get where like everybody wins. Like, why are you trying to stifle? Hell, even if for whatever reason you're a knucklehead and you don't want to play with them, don't play with them. They will play with other people and they will still contribute to the system and it'll be great. There's just no good outcome to pushing somebody away. I just don't get it at all. But I thought it was worth highlighting these women and the efforts they're making, especially in Puerto Rico, because we've heard about a lot of these things being in the States, but not so much outside the U. So it's really cool to see these types of efforts taking off. And like I said, if you're in the area, go check out their website. I just think this was really cool, and credit to them for having an awesome clapback to those dudes because sometimes you just got to stand up and make some dudes feel stupid, and that's a perfect spot to do it in. But that aside, let's go ahead and hop into the soapbox because I have a thing, and I get to be kind of the negative Nancy today. So we'll see how this goes. So here's the thing: we just did early access for Strixhaven last week, which is why we didn't have an episode last week for scheduling purposes, and we just couldn't work it out to the rest of the week. But one of the misconceptions, I guess is a proper word, that seems to have escaped containment, if you will, from the early access community is that players are never supposed to concede during early access. And that is just outright not true. Now, I've heard this for a while that people have believed this to be a thing. And I can tell you, I've been doing early access events, I think, since the beginning. I think I only missed one of them through the whole process. So this has never been a thing. However, I want to add some clarity to it so people understand, right? This isn't just free form concession like there is on the ladder when you're just tired of a game, right? This isn't, but this also isn't a no concession zone. What it is let's say you drew a hand you didn't like, you mulligan twice or whatever. Yes, don't concede that. Let a few turns play out so people at least get to see the new cards and it's still worth people's time. If you play two or three creatures and your opponent wipes the board, don't automatically concede. That's bad. You let a few turns play out again so we can see some of the new cards and the interactions and whatever, because this is still a promotional event. But if you've had like 5 turns in a row where you're just drawing and playing lands and you're not even interacting with your opponent, yeah, and they already have lethal on board, or they probably will kill you in 2 turns because you can't really do anything, then sure, you give them the GGs and concede. That's understandable. If they're taking 25 actions because they're in the middle of some crazy combo, but you don't have a way to interact, we already agree that we're going to see the end of the game. We've seen several of the same spells get played. They're just looking for their kill card. Cool. you can go ahead and concede to save you both like the extra 2 or 3 minutes of them going through all the actions. The reason both sets of those rules exist is that one, it's a promotional event, and the goal is to show off cards, let people get some knowledge, let players see interactions, all that good stuff. But also respecting each other because everybody's not everybody, but a bunch of the people that are playing are trying to make content, right? And if the games are just boring with no interactions for a long consecutive stretch of turns, that's probably not good for either group either, especially live streaming, right? That's not going to be good for either person's audience. But also, if you're just conceding because your opponent played like one card, and you're like, well, okay, whatever, F this game, and you're out, then now you've just made two bad pieces of content, right? It's not good for your audience because they didn't really get to see anything happen during that game. It's not good for their audience because they didn't get to see anything happen during that game. So there is a middle ground where it makes sense for both sides. But this belief that nobody should ever concede during an early access event, like, no, that's never been true. It just hasn't been. It's not now. It hasn't been before. And this has been discussed in the Discord. And when people are conceding early, people are able to go in and report them and make a case or like at least tag them and be like, hey, bro, what's up? You know, what's happening? So this isn't a thing that people need to police. It's actually fine. The people in the program are policing it themselves. Everybody understands how it works. But I've seen this come up on so many different people's posts, on so many different people's YouTube videos. I was like, I'm just going to talk about it this week and just like clarify what's going on and why and when. Because even the players, you'll see them like tap the GGs, the other player gives the GGs, and everybody's good. Like, if the players don't mind, what's the big deal? But anyway, that's that. I'm going to step away from it, give you some time.
Yeah, mine's a little bit more on the positive side. I just want to give just another shout out to MLB The Show 26 for their awesome work with the Negro League storylines. With they dropped a new program for Jackie Robinson Day, which was last week, with more incredible cards play. Every year, I learned something that I didn't know about baseball and Negro League baseball through the storyline. That really, this is just the prototype of how to do this kind of content. If anyone wants to figure out, hey, what should we do, to celebrate Black history or literally any group of historical things you want to do, this is MLB. The way they do it is absolutely the way to do it. You learn something, you have a little bit of fun, you get some kind of fun challenges. Like there was one where it's from I think that actually happened where one of the pitchers was playing against the all white team, and one of them, throws a racial slur out there, like, why is this guy on the mound? He's like, you know what, guys, play deep. And they kind of step back, like, no, play real deep. So, like, the opposing or his outfield is essentially leaves the field. Then, like, the infield leaves the field. Like, yeah, everybody. And he proceeds to strike out everybody. Like, yeah, that's why he's on the mound.
Yep. He
Shut up.
basically just said, look, I'm about to handle all this work.
Right?
Yeah, man. I actually want to throw in as a reminder for people, if you've never listened to it, go back and check out the Black Diamonds podcast.
Right.
Like, very cool, where he shares just a lot of different history of the game. A lot of stuff that's kind of like lost to the annals of time sort of stuff. Highlighting things in the Hall of Fame that you probably didn't know about. There's like lots of cool stuff on there. Lots of fun guests. Like just an
and Bob
interesting
Kendricks,
podcast.
the curator of that museum, is the host for these storyline modes. Has been doing it's every bit as good as the podcast is. That's obviously why they hired him. Does a great job, and it really is. One of the many things MLB The Show does that really is just kind of a step above what everybody else is doing in the sports game space. We're not at this point, not even just sports games, just really it is one of the most fun modes I play in any game every year that I absolutely look forward to. And I'm sure they have hopefully many more of these to come, because I've heard not a bad word about it from anybody, really.
Well, yeah, I think also just people getting educated on things they just don't know about, and being surprised, because it's kind of hard to be surprised these days, it feels like. But yeah, man, let's talk about other stuff that we learned, because this was kind of an interesting week. So This one, I gotta tell you, I was very surprised about this random fact I came across. So I was looking up various movies because we've talked before about how it's crazy that Avatar has like three of the top 20 best selling movies of all time or whatever. And we kind of don't talk about it at all from a cultural standpoint. It's just like, man, we all remember seeing it. We could barely recall the plot or whatever. But almost every other major movie that's not like a documentary, say like Titanic or whatever, based on real events, tends to have some type of extra. You'll see kids with like t-shirts or lunchbox. Hell, you'll see Halloween costumes. I don't think I've ever seen a Navi Avatar whatever thing. But that got me looking up different movies. And I was like, what other major movies that come out recently that I haven't seen that I may have forgotten about or whatever? And Zootopia 2 came up and I was like, oh yeah, I did kind of still want to see that. I really enjoyed the first one. Wonder how much money that movie's made. Bro, it is in the top 10 best selling movies of all time now at $1.87 billion. That means it is now Disney's highest grossing movie over Frozen 2 and Inside Out 2, which Inside Out 2 is just behind Zootopia 2, I believe at like almost 1.7 billion. I didn't realize that when it made that much money. I was like, man, this is crazy. So yeah, expect sequels to Inside Out 2 and to Zootopia 2 because there's no way if they're making this much money, they're just going to let those die. But
And man, shout out to Herman's Head, who actually had that concept on Fox of the person with all the different emotions in their head being played by actors. I don't know if whoever created that got a check, but
that's true. I
probably not.
remember I enjoyed that show back in the day, man.
It was a really good show. I think it was only on for about 3 years, but
Yeah, I think it only had 3 seasons, something
it's
like
one of
that.
those that was always on the bubble. But as we see, the central conceit clearly worked.
Oh yeah. I think this is another thing too where people talk about the box office is dead, Disney doesn't have any ideas in their library, blah blah blah. Like, yeah, this obviously isn't true. Like the fact that you have well, I bet Frozen is also in the top X movies or whatever. So it's just like, yeah, Frozen 2 is 17 all time. Like,
And as was always happened, Disney doesn't need ideas because, like we talked about, Inside Out is a thing that's been done before. They just turned the main character into kid and did the Disney spin on it. Frozen is literally like most of Disney stuff. It's Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen.
sure.
They just put great songs in it.
Yeah, and I thought Zootopia was great. Like, there were so many what I think makes Zootopia good is one of the things that's kinda gotten lost in some animation is that while it's drawn to appear appealing to kids, there's a lot of, like, adult jokes in there.
Absolutely.
Like, think about the first one. I think I mentioned, previously that, having the sloths work the DMV.
Yeah, that joke is not for kids. Kids have
Yeah,
hopefully never been, unless you had to go with your parents, you've hopefully never been to the DMV and don't know what that's like. That is absolutely for the adults in the audience.
exactly, right? The kids won't get it, but as soon as the adults saw it, everybody, like, in the theater kinda chuckled a little bit because 'cause they're like, "Alright, that's a good one." So, like, they do that throughout the whole film, and I think that just helps it hit because now it's like, yeah, if we wanna do something this weekend, I'll go take the kids to see Zootopia, right? I'm gonna have a good time, they're gonna have a good time. So, yeah,
Yeah,
man.
Judy Hopps is absolutely one of the best breakout cartoon characters of the
Oh,
past
yeah.
probably 10, 15 years.
Easily marketable too.
So much they can do with her.
But, yeah, just wanna point that out, like, you just don't know what's out here hitting sometimes. Like, you might think but man, go look up some of these, like, all-time biggest grossing weekends, whatever. Some of the stuff on that list is gonna surprise you, I think.
And while those characters are original, it's a buddy cop movie.
Yeah, oh,
And
yeah,
those and this is, hey, what if a fox and a rabbit did that? It'd be hilarious. And there you
for sure. But, yeah, what do you got, dude?
All right, I just wanted to give an RIP to Sid Krofft, creator of along with his brother Marty, such as the Banana Splits, HR Puffin stuff, Land of the Lost, and now I'm obviously probably dating myself, but even if if you have no idea what I'm talking about, if you've never heard of any of those shows, I bet you've heard of McDonald's. The McDonald Land creatures like Mayor McCheese, Grimace, all those guys were basically ripped off from Sid and Marty Krofft and their puppet show to the point where they had to cut Ronald a 7-figure check back in the day. They literally even hired like Sid and Marty Krofft puppeteers to create and work the McDonald Land puppet, which is I think why they went away for a while.
I
So yeah,
bet.
as they say, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and to this day, people are still ripping off stuff that Sid and Marty Krofft did 40 or 50 years ago at this point. And again, nobody more profitably than McDonald's. But yeah, Sid passed away last week at 96. Marty, I believe, died in November 23 at the age of 86. It said, and it sounds crazy to say, somebody that lived in the case of these two guys is 86 and 96 to be gone too soon, but absolutely true. Just for so many generations of kids and really adults, because again, you go back and you watch some of those shows and just realize how creative they were, how incredible they were, but look, definitely an influence on people like Jim Henson, as we still see. Magic is still using Muppets excellently, by the way, to sell product for Lorwyn. It just
Yep. Yeah, by the way, if you have heard of those things, we'll just let this function as your reminder to hydrate and go take your pills because your knees probably hurt right now. So
right.
just saying.
And not those kind of pills, because Sid Marty clarified they were not high.
That's
those,
true.
those, um,
That is actually
I think
very
because they
true.
came out in the 1970s and had a very different aesthetic from everything else that was on TV. People are like, they gotta be high. People
No,
have imaginations without taking drugs sometimes.
exactly. Exactly. Now that's a good call out though, man. But yeah, let's talk about some of the different topics because we do have some interesting ones this week. So let's start with a magic survey, I guess, that went out a couple of weeks ago. But generally, surveys don't really draw my attention that much. I'll fill them out, contribute some good information. Why not? It takes usually 5 minutes or less. But this one had a very interesting question on it that I don't believe we've seen previously. But it was specifically about a bunch of stuff for Arena. And if I remember right, it was categorized as like, hey, what items do you, or I think it was like quality of life items or something. But what items would you like to see Arena work on, or you think would contribute positively, whatever. And one of the things they had listed, which I don't think we've seen before, was a spectator mode. Now, I don't know if this is a list of things that they're just feeling out. Maybe they're starting to plan for the next round of stuff they need to work on, and they're trying to, hey, whatever scores the highest, we'll prioritize these things. I don't know. Maybe this is just also like, hey, here are things we think we need to work on. Do y'all agree? And then, they get ranked. They could be using this information a bunch of different ways. But the fact that they even put it up, I found to be very interesting because I think spectator mode is one of those things that players have wanted for a very long time, especially from a coverage standpoint. But I don't know that I've ever seen or heard Wizards openly acknowledge it's a thing that they're aspiring to have or that they think is important. So even just seeing that, I was like, oh, you actually included this as an option. Because everything else was like stuff you would expect to see. But that was one that was just like, oh, really? All right. Yeah, I'll check this box. Because I'll be honest, like, a little bit selfish, but as a commentary person, I would like to have a spectator mode. It would make our life easier. It would definitely make our producers' lives a little bit easier.
Right.
So, why not have it? But then I started thinking, like, depending on how they implement it, could we do some fun stuff with that for content purposes? Just as a content creator, making videos with it or whatever. Or does it save stuff for a replay mode? Even, right? If they want to go that far, you could do some cool breakdowns of your own games or whatever if you wanted to. So I don't know. We have literally no clues around it. We don't know how it'd be implemented, what the time frame would be, how difficult it is. None of those questions are answered. It was literally just an option. But I thought they are listening because the fact that this went from, to my knowledge, never being seen in one of these to now being on the list says it's at least enough of a decision or at least enough of a discussion that it's on their radar. Either that or they've already taken care of enough things that now they're starting to introduce other stuff and be like, okay, what's the next thing we might want to consider? But I bet you also heard that a set called Strixhaven dropped this past weekend with
I
pre-releases and
did
everything.
hear a little something about that. A little something for something.
Yeah, that went over very well, as it turns out, to the point that collector's boxes are the highest we've seen in a minute. I think we were seeing, at least in a couple of stuff I saw reported just a couple of days ago, they were getting over $500 for the collector's boxes. And I'm going to go ahead and do a quick search here for collector booster Strixhaven, and we'll see where this comes up. Yeah, you're seeing 500 plus on a lot of places online right now. And granted, this is all before the set drops officially this Friday, but we haven't seen boxes really go this high for the last couple of sets. So it's kind of interesting to see this shoot up that high. I think Avatar was high for a minute. And then, of course, going back all the way to Final Fantasy, obviously we got to like $1,000 a box or whatever that was. So yeah, there's definitely interest in Strixhaven. I think this also further pushes back the need for Wizards to even consider, like, should we do a Harry Potter set? Like, no need, right? You already have your own Wizard School. It hits great. Like, this set is selling fantastic.
Or do they just go, man, how much money would it make if the fake Harry
I don't
Potter
know.
is
Maybe,
$500 a box?
maybe. I
That
honestly,
feels more likely what is happening in the Hasbro suite.
I think I've said before though. I think that only happens if we get another 4 to 5 years down the road and they just really need something. I think that'll just be in case of emergency break glass. But realistically, this is selling well enough that I've even seen on a couple of my retailer groups, a couple of retailers saying like, "Hey, if any of y'all have any spare play boosters, I'll buy them from you." Like, I can't get enough for my distributors right now, or whatever. So, yeah, the set's not even launched yet officially till Friday, and it's already going over
It just
fantastically
feels
well.
like too big of a coincidence for them to buy the right to make Harry Potter cards and merchandise and then not put it in their most profitable merchandise.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna do it, honestly. And even if they did, it would still be a long ways off because I'm pretty sure they're already working on stuff through 28, maybe even 29 already. So it would be at least that long before it would even be a possibility. But I mean, it's not to say Hasbro's not going to make a lot of other things with Harry Potter because they have the ability to produce a lot. So they'll get their money's worth out of signing that license no matter what. But there was, for all the positives with Strixhaven, there was a weird thing that came up. Some people opened their pre-release cards and went, "Hmm, why does this little foil stamp look funny?" And they compared it to other things and went, "Yeah, this isn't a normal like Planeswalker stamp." Because anybody who's seen a Magic card, where they at the little oval at the bottom on the rares and mythics is there as a stamp of authenticity of sorts, and it's usually the Planeswalker symbol, kind of in a wallpaper pattern. These didn't have that. They had a Star Wars Unlimited stamp on them, which was very weird. And now, Magic cards are printed in some facilities that also print other things, right? That's the only way they're able to print all the different stuff they make for Magic and D&D or whatever, and get it shipped around the world and all that good stuff. So this isn't the first time that there's some type of error that's come from a printing facility. We have errors all the way back to like Tempest, and even before that, there's Magic cards that exist with Wyvern card backs. So crazy things have happened in the printing process over the years. But this was one of the ones that was pretty interesting. And I know you'd ask off the air, like, do we think these are going to be more expensive? I think that's going to come down to how plentiful those are in the world.
Yeah,
I,
as it
I,
usually does with collectible stuff.
yeah, I think if it's one of those things where we find out that the first, I don't know, just making up a number, 10 to 20% of the run of the first run came out like that, well, then you're talking about probably thousands of every card being out in the world with that stamp. So it's like, okay.
Because I remember my mom saw one of those stories about somebody finding the number one issue of I think Superman or Batman or something in their attic and it being worth thousands of dollars. So she went through this phase where she would buy a copy of every number one
Oh,
comic she
yeah.
saw and give it to me like, look at that. Alf number one. That's probably not, but
Yeah. I
hey,
think that Alf
anyway,
number one might be $25.
right. Which again is way more than she paid for it. So
Yeah, fair. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things where if we also find out that it was caught early and only a few cases came out like that, then yeah, those would probably be worth significantly more. So we just don't really know, right? It's going to come down to the people that like misprints and miscuts, and the weird collector community. They'll largely decide how valuable those are. But I
You
did think
remember
it
the
was.
you remember
Mhm.
the baseball card where Billy Ripken, I think, had written "F U" on the handle of his bat,
Oh
and
yeah,
then
yeah,
they printed the company somehow didn't realize it was on there and printed it.
yeah. Stuff like that happens. So we'll see. And people like quality control and blah blah blah. Like some of that is just at the facility, man. Like things happen. Like pretty much every product, every game, whatever. Hell, I've even seen clothing that comes out misprinted from facilities. So it's like I'm not knocking them for that. More of a thing to just point out that you may want to check your cards because that might be a thing that you have and it could be worth more. You just have to wait a couple weeks and kind of find out, I guess.
The more you tighten your grip, the more TCGs will slip through your fingers.
Yeah, basically. But okay, let's switch gears entirely here, though. All the positive we talked about Strixhaven. We did mention that there was some crazy Pokemon news. Now, a couple weeks ago, there was a large tournament in Orlando, and I can't remember. It was some type of championship event. I can't remember which one it was. But they had a player whose username online is Firestar. And which, by the way, sweet username. But he was in a high profile event. We get to the end of the event. He has won that match. Great. He apparently, because, okay, actually, let me phrase it like this. I heard that a player lost a match because he got an unsportsmanlike conduct type warning or penalty that cost him a game when the game was over. And I'm like, oh, he must have really messed up.
Yeah, when you told me, I'm like, oh, did he like throw something? Did he
Yeah.
like
I'm
get in
like,
his opponent's face? I'm thinking of something like that.
that's what I'm thinking. Like, did you yell at your opponent and then just start hitting the gritty around the table or something? I'm like, what?
Stone Cold, my God, double bird. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, like what happened, right? So I go and look it up, and I'm watching this clip because they shared the clip on social media. A couple people did, and it's literally they get done. He takes off his headset a little bit forcefully, I will admit, but he just kind of puts it down on the table. He gives a fist bump or fist pump, and then he goes over and shakes his opponent's hand and says GG. And I'm literally waiting for the next
Yeah,
part
you're
because
like,
I'm like,
yeah, I'm like, okay, there's got to be more to this,
yeah.
right?
So I'm thinking, okay, when he shakes this dude's hand, he probably says something or does something or whatever. And then like a second later, the clip's over, and I'm just like, this was what
Like,
you got a penalty
bro,
for? Yeah.
bro.
I'm like, this is what he got a penalty for? Like, sure, maybe it was a little exuberant in the way he took the headset
I'm
off, but
assuming
like,
he like won some money here or something, or is close to winning money.
yeah,
So
it says it was the Orlando Regional Championship, right? So I'm like, okay, that like it's a game 5. You probably had a grueling back and forth.
yeah,
Like,
every other competitive endeavor I have ever seen, and believe me, I've covered everything, from high school football to video game tournaments. Yeah, everybody's, especially you've won, like, you said your city's regional championship for a thing. Yeah, you're supposed to be excited. We're supposed to be having fun here. It's in golf. And even golf, after, they've won, will do fist pumps and stuff.
yeah, hell, in golf, you have another dude on your card that directly lost to you. He, you know what I mean? Like, he's having a worse day than you are, and he's right there watching you celebrate. So I don't know, man. This was just weird because I'm like, okay, and I'm thinking maybe there's some audio I couldn't hear. Maybe he said something to the guy before he took the headset off. Like, none of that came to the forefront.
Yeah, because if that happened at this point, we'd have heard something.
Yeah.
He said my mama, or whatever.
So he was, according to everybody, he was given a effectively an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. And it was just kind of vague and they just kind of left it at that. And he was too forceful or whatever, dangerous. Like I'm like, come on. This is not even close. This is not even close. But I'm like, all right, obviously we'll hear more about this in the next week or so. It'll get ironed out, whatever. Well, Pokemon doubled down and made it worse. because
Yeah, I'm thinking like, okay, maybe obviously there's been a dumb decision here. The company will overrule this, and no.
well, yeah, because here's what I'm thinking, right? Somebody reviews it, comes back and says, "Hey, this was a harsh penalty for what happened.
Yeah.
Not really necessary." Even if you frame it as, "Hey, we would rather people not have excessive celebrations or not do this thing, but this shouldn't have resulted in a match loss when the match was already done." Right? A game loss that affects the match because it's game 5, right? We'll make it right to the player. They'll auto be qualified for the next event. We'll, I don't know, give them some extra prize money, whatever the case is, right? There are ways we could have fixed it and been done with it in just a couple days.
If it's like round one, maybe. If it's the championship round, yeah, I would hope you have a little bit of emotion about that.
Yeah.
I
Like
think as somebody watching this, you want to see somebody that really has passion for the game and is enjoying themselves, because I swear, too often in various competitive endeavors, we get to where we're treating it like it's some kind of religious experience. Just, come on, it's
oh,
supposed to be.
everybody wants it to be like chess, where everybody's stoic and you just stare at your screen or at your opponent. You don't say anything. And it's
And if
like,
you're
come on,
watching
man.
that, nobody wants that.
Exactly. It's boring. So even in round one, if you played a grueling 5-game set, like I'm okay with you showing a little bit of like, even if it's just like, damn, finally, like whatever. Like, okay, cool, I'm in. I don't have a problem with that.
Because if you're a fan of that player, you're at home, you're slamming something down. You're like, okay, let's go.
Here's the problem though. When Pokemon came back from their official statement, they tried to quote the official Pokemon handbook and say that the player disrupted the game state.
But game's over. So it's like, how do you
Yeah, I'm like,
how you
okay.
disrupt the state of a game that has already ended and both parties have acknowledged it's over?
Yeah, I'm like, even if you drop your headphones and a couple of cards or some dice move or bump your opponent's cards or whatever, like it's not like he threw it on his opponent's side of the table, right? If you took it off and you like slammed it in front of your
Yeah, if you
opponent or
throw it
whatever,
at your opponent, yeah, I get it.
yeah, then I'd be like, all right. But if you every shot we have from top down, side view, like is literally him taking off, and I wouldn't say he slammed it down, but it was at least somewhat forceful that he put it on the table. It was on his cards on his side of the table. And I'm like, yeah, this is not that. Now, Firestar followed up and said he was now bothered because when he spoke to different people about the rulings, nobody said anything about the game state. He said he talked to a couple of different judges.
Yeah, because
Nobody
it
brought it
makes
up.
0 sense.
Yeah. So now it looks bad on Pokemon side because it sounds like you're trying to, I guess, somewhat protect your judges or the
Yeah, it
ruling
just
or
feels like,
something or
okay,
whatever.
sometimes you get all judges and umpires, referees, whatever, have to, like anybody with a job, you have to be subject to some kind of evaluation,
Yeah,
and we all make mistakes.
exactly. Like that's
But
my
this
thing.
feels like they just doubled down, like, hey, we're gonna make sure we have our judges back. We're gonna double down on the crazy thing, and we're gonna call it a rule, and we're gonna point to a rule that has nothing to do with that.
I'm just saying it looks bad to them because if you even watch the table, the top down angle afterwards, like a couple of things moved, but not like the opponent's cards just went wherever. You know what I
And
mean?
the game is over. Like, how can I don't think you technically can disrupt the game state if the
No.
game is over.
Even if somebody tries to say, "Oh, well, they need the picture," like you recorded it, it's live. Like you could literally just go back and get a still shot. So even that's not an excuse. And his opponent appears to not have a single problem with it.
Right.
His opponent literally kind of goes, "Ah, you got me." Got up, shook his
Yeah.
hand, whatever. So I'm like,
They're absolutely upset they lost, but they're don't
yeah.
appear in any way upset about the celebration.
So I'm like, what's the issue? What are we doing? I'm like, this is crazy. But yeah, according to him, he says like two separate head judges said that he was giving a match loss for throwing his headset down and being dangerous, in quotes. He
Dangerous.
says not a single judge told him he was given a game loss for disrupting the board or the game state. He said he didn't get a chance to appeal or anything. That was just the ruling and it was done. Which usually in those situations, in most games, you appeal
Yeah,
to
you
the
can
head
say, hey,
judge and they review it. They talk to the judges, they talk to the players, and then they come back and give you the ruling. So he didn't even get that in that situation. So yeah, it's just weird. I get it, right? If you're trying to keep a certain image because you're Pokemon and you don't want to encourage excessive celebration or whatever, fine. Just say that. But to come and just be like, well, the headset hidden table disrupted the game state, so he deserves that game loss because you can't do that by our rules. It's like, this just looks bad, man. Come on. Like, and nobody and that's the other thing too. To my knowledge, I have not found a single post because I went looking in the community that doesn't agree with the player. Everybody says, no, what he did's fine.
Yeah,
Like,
it's just silly. It's
yeah,
just
so that alone should be like, even if it's a rule, you should probably consider changing your rules because nobody has a problem with what happened. So, like, yeah, I don't know. It's just a ugly situation to see happen to somebody in a really big moment
or
in a
really just the
major event.
interpretation of the rule. Because I get it, like, okay, yeah, during the game, obviously, yeah, you wouldn't be slamming things down. Absolutely, you would be knocking things over and making it hard for the judge to figure out what's going on. That, I completely understand the spirit of the rule. This is not in the spirit of the rule.
Yeah, it's just bad. And even people responding to all these things are just saying like, this is dumb. I never thought this would be an issue for any reason. Even people that said like, so now placing a headset on the table is considered throwing. And I'm like, it's kind of fair. It was a forceful placement. It wasn't really a throw. So, I mean, it's a bad look. And it's tough because Pokemon has been on such a good run for them lately,
And again, you can see it in
you know?
your opponent's face. You throw a headset at me, yeah, there's gonna be some kind of reaction. We don't see anything like that.
Oh, nothing. Like I said, if you watch the clip, it literally is like, okay, I'm waiting for the thing to
Yeah, you're
happen.
waiting for the unsportsmanlike conduct
Yeah,
here.
and it just never comes. I'm like, oh, that was the whole clip. Oh, weird. Okay. Well, yeah, he doesn't deserve a penalty
Like,
for that.
come down, Selector, rewind. What'd I miss?
Yeah, because and that whole clip, I
Right?
think, is like, I don't know, 7 seconds or 8 seconds. It feels
Yeah,
very
like, is
short.
this everything? And was something cut out? Like, no, it's the whole thing.
Yeah, it's just a weird. It's 12 seconds, and that includes the last like 3 seconds of the actual match. So you see like the final hit go down or whatever. So like, yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. But yeah, just figured I'd let people know if you hear anything crazy going on in tournament rulings and Pokemon stuff. Like, it happens in every community, man. Happens in every community. But you had a bit of news about a Jace comic book that's coming down the pipe that you want to talk about.
Yeah, issue 1 is technically out already. It's called Magic the Gathering Untold Stories Jace. It's a 4-issue miniseries from Dark Horse. And they spent money. They got Michael Conrad, who's an Eisner Award winner. He's written on, I think, Batgirls, Wonder Woman. So again, some big name, huge brand comic books. And he's also a Magic player, so he's very excited about this opportunity. Knows already came to the project knowing exactly who Jace Bellerin is, his backstory, and was just very excited to take on this opportunity. He says, actually, this is a quote. This is the kind of character that's haunted me for years. He's that good-looking guy that makes me throw my cards in the bin and extend my hand begrudgingly to the dreaded blue player who just ended my game. So yeah, he knows. He knows Jace.
Yep, he's been there a few times.
Yep.
I
That
will say this. This is an interesting kind of area to be in, right? When we start talking about some of these brands being so long in the tooth, we now have a comic book writer and a movie director and whatever that are aware because they grew up with Magic, right? So now I feel like you get in a better position from a creative standpoint of having a higher hit rate on your stuff being more authentic and appealing more to your player base, or at least your fandom, I should say, because they have that history. Because for a while, if you had a Magic comic written, 20 years ago, just like you just got whoever was available from that studio, got assigned to the book or whatever, and wrote a comic, right? Not that they were terrible, they just didn't have the attachment to the brand. Having a writer that does, you probably get a much more interesting story out of this.
Yeah, and they, especially back then, probably were not putting their Eisner Award-winning writer on it. That was,
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not.
you can't take them off of the Spider-Man comic long enough. They got Brian Michael Bendis syndrome where they're writing every single comic the company has. They don't have time to write the Magic comic.
Now, what I've been saying. I've been wanting to have evil Jace be the big bad for a
It
while.
feels like we're leaning that way because in this story, he's talking about his mind being fractured and how he may have done some things that he doesn't remember. And of course, they mentioned the short story for Lorwyn Eclipse where Johnny is saying that Jace's cat is some kind of spell that nobody else can recognize, and the spell, he says, came apart in his hands, and then he came apart with it. And it really feels like they're setting up the Jace heel turn.
Yeah, see, because like I've been saying this for a while. Like, you can't be a character that goes in and manipulates your own brain multiple times to try to like hide information or forget stuff or whatever, and not do some kind of damage.
Great.
Right? That just doesn't make sense. So eventually,
The theory in that story is that he was doing something to warp reality, which again, he's trying to undo the Phyrexian stuff, but still, playing with reality is bad.
well,
It's just,
also Tezzeret's been messing with reality too. I think
right.
he's had some type of machine artifact thing he made that's causing problems too. And the
And I think
fact
at this point, like, Tezzeret has wiped Jace's mind at least one time, and I think Jace has returned the favor. So it's
also note how you specifically said in their writing they used his mind was fractured.
right.
And reality fracture is the
Yeah.
name of the song. I'm just saying context clues.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that. Which, far as I know, none of the stories they've done before with the Magic comics have actually tied into anything really going on in the Magic storyline. It sounds like this one is really. It feels like the seeds are being planted.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like a lot of the books were kind of like they became canon technically, but they were writing that portion of the canon. It wasn't, oh yeah, this is what's going on in our current sets or what's going to be coming out in a year. We need this to tie in. I don't remember that being a thing. So
And that's not just the thing happening with Magic. Like when you have the DC and Marvel or their big animated series, they always would have a comic book based on the animated series. But of course, you couldn't do anything that would be outside of what was established canon in the TV show, because the TV show is the
yeah,
most important thing always when you're doing one of those kind of books.
yeah, it's interesting though. I hope this does well with not just fans, but just comic readers in general. But if so, that's a win for Dark Horse. That's a win for Magic. If nothing else, you at least get some cool written Magic lore, that you can expand on that's off the website and off the cards. Somebody's writing something fresh
And hey, if
that
the
ties in.
animated project and the movie go well, we've got more stories to pull from.
Yep. That's always a bonus. But all right, dude. On that note, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you when you're not doing the show?
All right, I'm on YouTube at Age of Wagers and doing all sorts of fantasy related content over there. I currently have, I believe, a 4-game winning streak, pending what happens in the Cubs game. I have not checked that yet, but so yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
And
you
also
go
over
ahead.
on Uniquely Tish, where they're doing all kinds of cooking, eating, shopping, and trying new things.
You can find me everywhere at PowrDragn, PowrDragn, where we have a ton of cool related stuff for Magic on the YouTube channel right now. But also, we're going to be at MagicCon Vegas. So if you want to come by, check it out. And even get to demo Mark Rosewater's Redacted game. I'll be doing some demos of that. So come by and check us out. But as always, wherever you are watching or listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Please remember to take care of yourselves and your family. Remember to be awesome. And most importantly, with the state of the world right now, be awesome to each other.